Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how to disregard appearances of 3D reality, what it really means. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I heard from one of our subscribers who said, Tom, I'm really finding it difficult to maintain the state of wish fulfilled. And it's really hard for me to deny my senses and disregard 3D reality. I was wondering if you could talk about that and unpack that a little bit. Well, guys, we're going to unpack this today and more. And here's what I want to say, and I really want to make a big point of it, guys. It's not about denying your senses or disregarding 3D reality. Hear this, that remember, your senses, your 5 senses, are the portal to that higher consciousness. They are the door, as Jesus said, I am the door, I am the way. They are the door, they are the way to that higher level of consciousness, or to that reality where your desires are already real, are already manifested. Hear this. So, and the 3D world, with all of its manifestations, represents that divine substance. So it's not about, even when Neville says about disregarding appearances, what it really means is look behind the appearances and see the divinity or that divine substance that underlies all manifestations. Wow, that's big. Let's unpack this a little bit more. Neville says this: disregard appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. Exactly, meaning instead look behind those appearances. See the substance. See your desire in every manifestation. Hear this is big, right? Your desire or that divine substance is in every manifestation. It's all made of the same stuff. God, that intelligent mind, all that is. It's all made. So when you look at the 3D world, instead of looking at what you don't want or that it's not there, when you look around, see that your desire is in everything. And it's part of that divine substance. That's what Neville means, disregard appearances and conditions, because all those appearances and conditions are evidence. You just don't see it. Right? So he's saying disregard the appearance of the conditions and all evidence of the senses that deny the fulfillment of the desire, because you're looking at things that appear to deny the fulfillment of your desire. Hear this, guys. You're not looking at the substance behind it. You're not looking at what the physical eyes can't see. Right? So remember, your senses in the 3D you, that's the portal to that dimensionally larger you. That's the portal to your desires, right? Rest in the assumption that you are already what you want to be. For in that determined assumption, you and your infinite being are merged in creative unity. With your infinite being, all things are possible. With your infinite being, that one consciousness, all things are possible. Rest in the assumption. Meaning when you rest in the assumption, you're not staring at 3D reality and looking for things that don't look like your desire. You're looking at 3D reality as that divine substance that's taking on some manifested form. Hear this, and you know that divine substance makes up everything. It is the substance behind it all. It is God behind everything, right? So the imaginative man does not deny the reality of the sensuous outer world. Here, Neville's clear here. You're not denying the reality of the outer world, of becoming. But he knows that it is the inner world of continuous imagination that is the force by which the sensuous outer world of becoming is brought to pass. In other words, focus on don't reject the outer world, instead focus on the inner world. That's what's creating the outer world. Let's hit this a little bit more. It's not about denying your senses or rejecting the 3D world. The substance behind all appearances is divine, it's consciousness. Instead, it's moving to the knowing and the perception that behind all of that stuff, behind your senses, behind all, is the substance that creates everything, is the divine substance of God, right? Do not judge according to appearances. That's what the scripture was talking about, right? Instead, look behind that. Judge righteously. Know that that's divine substance. That what you're seeing is just a physical manifestation of that divinity, right? When you reject anything in 3D or deny your senses, you are rejecting or denying a part of your being. Remember, your being is equal to your expressions and your manifestations. It's the same. So when you reject a part of that, you're now becoming a house divided, as Scripture said. If a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. That's what they were getting at. When you're denying any part of 3D or any part of your manifestations, you're dividing your house or a part of it. You're denying a part of yourself. That's why it feels so bad. And that's why it keeps you in frustration and keeps you from manifesting or having everything you desire, because you're divided, right? You're rejecting this on one hand and then desiring what you really want on the other hand. It's all one, right? This is big. So God, consciousness, gives us spiritual substance, of which there is an infinite supply: mind, substance, divine ideas. No, when you're looking at 3D reality, just let it be, because you know that it's always changing form, and that the substance that it's made of is infinite, and there is no limitation. You simply got to shape your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs around what you want. Wow, that's big. So there's only one mind, the 3D you, or conscious mind, that is attached to physical appearances and things, has the gift to look within. That 3D you that has those 5 senses, right? You don't want to escape that, because that's your portal. That's why Jesus said, I am the way, I am the door. That your 5 senses are the door to that higher wisdom, that higher power, to that higher state of consciousness, right? Jesus said, I am the door, I am the way. The Son of Man said that, right? Coming from that 3D perspective, he knew that his consciousness is the door to all, in the 5 senses, is the door to that greater consciousness, right? So when you're really getting fed up with 3D, that's what's keeping you're denying the very substance of God. That's as big. And this is what Jesus says: who of you, by being worried, can add a single hour to his life? Observe how the lilies of the field grow. They do not toil and they do not spin. Right? He's pointing to that higher consciousness, that nature is one with that higher consciousness. There's no worry. There's no doubt that it's going to happen. But when you doubt, when you worry, it doesn't add anything to you. In fact, it just keeps you away from all your desires. Right? Deny the idea. Instead, if you want something to deny the idea of lack, and affirm the divine idea of infinite substance or consciousness, and that all 3D appearances are manifestations of that divine substance or of that divine idea. Know that everything you're looking at is just a manifestation of that same divine idea or that same divine substance. So your thoughts or ideas become substance through faith, right? Those are divine ideas through your belief. That's why it says in Scripture how faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the convictions of things not seen. It's the substance, right? That's the substance we're talking about. That's the substance that takes form in the dimensionally larger reality, then manifests in 3D reality, right? So faith is the substance that underlines all manifestations. It's the inner reality of your 3D world manifestations. That's how important faith is. Faith is just your belief in that you're working with divine substance, right? Everything in the 3D world, all things and manifestations you have, whether you judge them good or bad, or a lot or a little, represent that one unlimited infinite substance of all that is, or consciousness of God. And through faith, it becomes manifested in the 3D world. Right? Because when you wrap it in faith in that dimensionally larger through feelings and beliefs, it becomes manifested in that dimensionally larger reality that must express itself in 3D. That's what we're talking about. And so in Scripture, one of the biggest metaphysical teachings of Jesus was his feeding of 5,000 hungry people. Right? And there's a lot of, this really demonstrates why your senses in the 3D world are so important to you, that to not fight against it, not resist the 3D world, because it's through those senses, it's through that 3D you that you rise in consciousness to that higher you, to all your desires, that you manifest your desires. This teaching is so big, it's in all 4 Gospels. It's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? And this is where Jesus multiplied 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish to feed 5,000 hungry people, right? They were following Jesus. It was near Passover. And so there were a lot of people following him. And his disciples said, well, we'll let them go back to the villages so they can feed themselves, right? Even the disciples doubted it, right? And this little boy who had the compassion of Jesus. This is why Jesus says always be like little children, right? Had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and gave those to Jesus. And then Jesus held those 5 loaves and those 2 fish up towards the heavens and prayed, right? And then multiplied them, right? Multiplied them to feed 5,000 hungry people. Well, what's the message here? It's a big one, guys. The bread is spiritual substance. The bread always represents the body of God, or the spiritual substance, or the faith, right? The substance behind all things you see in the 3D world. That's what the bread represents. 5 refers to the 5 senses of 3D reality, right? Your 5 senses. The fish represent ideas in abundance, or in other words, ideas of abundance, right? That can be, and these fish hold the power to multiply, right? When in the hands of Jesus, these become divine ideas, right? When in the hands of that spirit that spiritually awakened you, that higher, dimensionally larger you can multiply those, right? 2 refers to duality, or the relativity of the 3D world, right? 5,000, meaning the number 5, which refers to your senses of the 3D world. When the Bible puts zeros after numbers, it means to express the unlimitedness of it, or the unlimited and the mysterious ways of it. So it's the mysterious or the unlimited of your senses to reach upward into that dimensionally higher reality. Hear this, that's why they put 5,000. It's representing the 5 senses of the 3D world, but unlimited, in an unlimited way. Wow, that's big. And so 5,000 were hungry, or in other words, the 3D you is hungry. You have unlimited desires. You have unlimited longing to want more, to be more, to have more, right? Not just more in 3D, not just more of 3D manifestations. I get it. We have those 3D desires, but really a desire to connect with that high, dimensionally larger you, to connect with your creative powers, to connect with your divine gift as God, as a creator. That's the longing, and it's unlimited, right? And then you feed or satisfy those desires through your spiritual or higher self. In other words, Jesus represents your spirit, in this story, right? Represents the spiritual you, or the higher you, or your inner being. And so you feed yourself, you feed your desires through what you consider the little you have. Remember that one of the disciples doubted them and says, how can you feed 5,000 with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? But those loaves of bread and 2 fish represents your spiritual connection, represents your initial supply of spiritual awareness, right? You have some spiritual awareness through your 5 senses. Hear this, right? Without those, you would have no awareness at all, or no ability to walk through the door. I am the door, I am the way to that dimensionally larger you. So that you start with that initial supply, or that 3D you, and then it's multiplied as you walk through the door. It's always available to you, right? The Christ mind, I am the door, right? Wow, that's big, right? So no matter where you're starting from, no matter what you've been through in your life, it doesn't matter. The moment's always now, and that awareness is always within you, no matter how little you think you have of it, right? It will multiply when you move towards it. When that initial supply will multiply as you rise in consciousness, as you recognize that substance within you. Wow, that's big. And then it says, he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking upward to the heaven, he blessed the food, right? So this is you realizing and affirming that they are of spiritual substance, that your 3D world is of spiritual substance, right? This is Jesus lifting those things of the 3D world up, lifting those ideas to divine ideas, and multiplied and increased them through faith. So this is you. Whatever you see in the 3D world, those are divine ideas when you lift them up to that higher consciousness, when you see the substance behind them, right? Your 5 senses become powerful. They become a powerful door to that spiritual you, right? And they're multiplied and they increase through your faith in it. Wow, that's big. And so what are the key takeaways here? Here are the key takeaways to this guy. The door to your desires is through the 3D you, through your 5 senses, through your apparent limitations. Hear this. It makes no sense to deny your senses, to hide from the 3D manifestations, to try to ignore them, to try to close your eyes to them. Welcome them all, because those are your portal or the gate or the way or the door to everything you want. Bless the 3D manifestations. Then you can move above appearances and doubt. Right? And that's, remember, I told you one of his disciples said, but what are these for so many people? Right? Even the disciples doubted him. Right? So you move above appearances and doubt. Free yourself from little ideas of lack and limitation, and your spiritual substance will be multiplied. In other words, we come with these little ideas from our 3D selves. Right? We need to move those to divine ideas. How? By moving through our 3D senses, moving through that door of our 3D senses, through that spiritual awareness of who we really are. Right? And then once you do it, will be multiplied. In other words, just point yourself in that direction, and then it will all be multiplied. God comes to meet you, right? I just want to say, sometimes we're so focused on, I hear this in the resistance, we're so focused on getting something, either getting our SP or getting our manifestations or getting the house or getting the car or getting the money. Getting separates you from your abundance, right? Giving unites you with the substance of all that is, right? That little boy gave Jesus all he had. All that little boy had, right, was 2 fish and 5 loaves, yet he gave it all to Jesus. The compassion, right, to feed the crowd, to feed the masses, right? So getting separates you from abundance, giving unites it. And then it was said at the end that Jesus gathered around, still had 12 loaves left and others, and he gave it to the little boy. The little boy had more than when he started with anyway. That's what we're talking about. That's how to disregard appearances of 3D reality. That's what it really means. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. Hit us up on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful, on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Karen, our website at tomkaren.com, at BeSomethingWonderful.com, or write me anytime at info@BeSomethingWonderful.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, with great love, this is Tom. See you soon.